Okay, so let's get into it. We're diving deep today into a true crime case that has, for 4 decades, been Germany's ultimate unsolved riddle.
It really has. It features a cryptic code, sudden paranoia, a totally chaotic final journey.
And a victim found naked and dying on the Autobahn. We are talking about the YOGTZE case, or as it became known back in 1984, the Autobahn riddle.
It is a mystery that just perfectly encapsulates the anxieties and, the intrigue of that Cold War era.
Absolutely. And at the center of it all is Günther Stoll, a 34-year-old unemployed food engineer from Anshausen, Westphalia.
And we have this mountain of conflicting evidence, a dying declaration about 4 strangers, forensic evidence that suggested he was run over before the crash.
And a man in a mysterious white coat seen fleeing the scene. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
You really can't.
And that's the paradox right there, isn't it? Stoll was found near his wrecked Volkswagen Golf, but his injuries were just so strange, so severe, that they instantly turned what should have been a simple traffic accident into a baffling potential homicide. So our mission today is to follow that chaotic 4-hour timeline of Stoll's final night, examine all the competing theories that kept this case alive for 40 years, and then finally reveal the definitive and, frankly, deeply surprising conclusion that was officially released by German authorities in 2025.
So if you're looking for a shortcut to understanding one of the most intellectually challenging true crime puzzles in recent history, well, this is where we begin the deep dive.
Okay, so we have to set the scene. October 1984, Stoll's life. It had already started to unravel months before the night he died. What was his mental state like leading up to all this?
It was a state of increasing dread. His wife reported a really significant and persistent escalation in his paranoia. He was constantly mentioning these unidentified people he called only Z.
Z, which is a German word for they or them.
Exactly. Them. And he claimed they were following him.
Actively following him.
Oh, absolutely. He told his wife they were tracking him, watching him, and that they fully intended to harm him. But, and this is crucial, despite her attempts to, call him down or get him to explain, he never gave a concrete description. No names, no motive.
Nothing, just this vague them.
Just this constant, nameless threat that really dominated his final weeks.
And this paranoia, it reaches a dramatic head late on the night of October 25th. Stoll is talking about these threats with his wife when apparently he has this sudden explosive epiphany.
That's the moment. He jumps up and he shouts the phrase, "Jetzt geht mir ein Licht auf."
Which means?
It's a very profound declaration. It means, now I've got it, or now a light comes on for me. The lights have come on. Whatever the puzzle was, in his mind, he had just solved it.
And what's his immediate action after this big insight?
He rushes to grab a piece of paper, scribbles down 6 letters, YOGTZE, and then almost as quickly as he wrote it, he crosses the word out.
He doesn't explain it? Nothing.
Nothing. Doesn't explain the word, doesn't explain his urgency. But that one cryptic scribbling is the single piece of evidence that fueled, decades of theories.
And here's the first major roadblock for investigators, a classic true crime mistake. His wife, she was overwhelmed, focused on his erratic behavior. She unfortunately discarded the original note that night.
The physical evidence was lost right away. Police had to rely on her memory months later to recall the exact spelling.
Which is why we have variations, right? Like YOGTZE or even YO6TZE.
Exactly. The entire investigation is resting on the memory of a single, highly stressed witness about a word she never even understood. It's a shaky foundation.
So Stoll leaves, note in hand, paranoia at its peak, and drives off in his Volkswagen Golf. Now Act 2. The terrifying journey begins. A frantic dash across Westphalia that lasts about 4 hours.
That journey really paints a picture of a man in crisis. His first known stop is his favorite local pub in Wilsendorf called Papillon.
And this is crucial because it's the last time anyone sees him acting even remotely normal.
Or at least predictable. He walks in, orders a beer, but he never takes a sip.
And what happens next is just a clear sign that this was way more than simple paranoia.
He collapses, just boom, on the floor. He hits his head when he falls and is unconscious for several minutes. Witnesses confirmed he wasn't drunk. He was just intensely distressed and physically overwhelmed.
A full physical collapse in public before he's had a single drink. That suggests something severe was happening.
Oh, an immediate severe physical and psychological reaction to something he had just realized or maybe seen.
So once he comes to, he's not looking for help. He's fleeing. He drives away hastily.
All right.
And then we enter this 2-hour black hole.
Nothing. No witnesses, no camera footage, nothing. Then, around 1:00 a.m., he reappears 14 kilometers away in a place called Hagerseelbach.
Which is where he grew up.
Right, and he doesn't go to his own parents who live nearby. He goes to the house of an old woman, an acquaintance from his childhood, and starts banging on her door in the middle of the night.
Can you imagine being that woman? She lets him in, and she describes his demeanor as agitated, confused, and just profoundly paranoid.
He confided in her. He said he foresaw a terrible event that was about to happen that very night.
So he felt it was imminent, unavoidable.
That's the sense she got. And when she urged him, go talk to your parents, he refused. He said they wouldn't understand. It suggests this level of fear or knowledge, or what he thought was knowledge, that he felt only an outsider could grasp.
So he leaves again, refusing the safety of his family, rushing back out into the night, and now we have another 2 hours of unaccounted time before the final tragic discovery at 3 a.m.
And this is the moment that turns the case into a legend. 2 truck drivers spot Stoll's VW Golf wrecked in a ditch alongside the busy A45 Autobahn near the Hagen-Süd exit.
And this location is, what, 100 kilometers from where he just was?
Roughly, yeah. He has covered a massive amount of distance, backtracking and driving erratically for someone supposedly trying to hide.
And what those truck drivers saw, it immediately changed everything. This wasn't just a potential accident anymore. It was a guaranteed crime scene. They saw a man.
An injured man, according to their report, walking around the wrecked car.
And they gave a very specific detail.
Very specific. They described him as wearing a long white or gray coat, possibly a lab coat. But before the drivers could even reach the vehicle, this mysterious figure vanished into the night.
So they finally get to the car, and Stoll is inside, severely injured, naked, and seated in the passenger seat. We have to pause on that. Naked in the passenger seat of his own wrecked car.
It's absolutely jarring. And despite his severe condition, Stoll was conscious enough to offer a shocking final statement before dying on the way to the hospital.
He told the drivers that 4 men had been in the car with him.
But that they had fled. And when asked if they were his friends, he explicitly said no, they were strangers, or perhaps them.
So we've got a missing man in a white coat, 4 fleeing occupants, a dying declaration, and a naked victim. This is where the investigation just implodes. What did the initial forensics tell the police?
It was stunning. The forensics concluded that Stoll's catastrophic injuries, and we're talking skull fractures, facial trauma, one arm nearly amputated, had all been sustained before the actual car crash into the ditch.
Wait, hold on. So his injuries were consistent with being run over by a large vehicle. But he was already naked when that happened.
That was the only conclusion the 1984 investigators could draw from the physics of the trauma. The severity suggested massive kinetic force inconsistent with that minor collision. And yes, he was already naked when he received those injuries. His clothing was never found.
So if he was run over by a different vehicle, put naked in his own car, and the crash was staged, that would be the leading murder theory. So the key evidence has to be those 4 men and the man in the coat, right?
Logically, yes. If the crash was a stage, his dying words point directly to the killers. But here is the massive hole in the theory. The car. Forensic examination of the VW Golf was meticulous. They found absolutely no foreign DNA, no unexpected fingerprints, nothing in that vehicle but Stoll's and his wife's traces.
It was clean.
The car was clean.
So how do police reconcile that? The overwhelming physical evidence of pre-crash trauma, which demands a separate vehicle and foul play, with the complete lack of any evidence that other people were even in the car.
That contradiction is the black hole that swallowed this case for 4 decades. They had a victim who screamed murder, but a clean crime scene that screamed, he was alone.
Which brings us to the theories. Because of that contradictory evidence, the default conclusion for the next 40 years was, well, murder. And the focus shifted very quickly to that cryptic note, YOGTZE.
And given the geopolitical setting of 1984 West Germany, theories just exploded. People linked the code to espionage, industrial sabotage. If Stoll was a food engineer and he had his aha moment, maybe that note unlocked a deadly secret.
Let's start with that industrial espionage angle. If you connect his profession to the evidence, YOGTZE, could it be an acronym or some kind of code for a chemical additive?
Many people investigated that, yeah, especially after the sighting of the man in the lab coat. Was Yo-Yo-G short for yogurt? Was TZE a code for an artificial flavoring? Or, a bit more speculative, is the word an anagram of zygote?
Zygote.
Was he mixed up in early sensitive research about the genetic enhancement of food, which was a massive national security concern at the time?
That makes the man in the white coat look a lot less like a ghost and more like a rival engineer or an agent sent to silence him. If he was uncovering a huge corporate secret, his paranoia about them would have been completely justified.
Exactly. The narrative suddenly clicks into place. Stoll discovers the secret, his life is instantly in danger, he writes the code, flees, and is intercepted by the group he feared.
Run over, then placed back in his car to simulate an accident.
Silencing the whistleblower. It's a compelling story.
Then there's the more classic Cold War spy angle. I mean, the code isn't a known word, so it had to be a substitution cipher or something else. One theory that got a lot of traction was that the letters represented a license plate.
Right, especially if you interpret some of the letters as numbers like YO6TZ3 fitting that European plate format.
Did that go anywhere?
Unfortunately, no, a dead end. But the second, far more dramatic espionage theory was the connection to radio communication. YO6TZE is the call sign for a Romanian shortwave radio station.
Wow.
In 1984, West Germany was just rife with intelligence activities. The idea that Stoll might have stumbled on a coded message or even been a low-level operative who received a final coded distress signal, it was highly popular.
It gives a pretty dramatic explanation for that now I've got it moment.
Yeah.
He realizes the people after him are part of an international apparatus.
The ambiguity of YOGTZE let every theory flourish. Some even compared it to the Somerton Man case, with the suggestion that YOGTZE was a mishearing of the Hebrew word YOGTZE, to have done what is required or released from an obligation. Did Stoll complete one final task, only to be executed immediately after?
These theories, all fueled by this initial belief that murder was undeniable, they kept the case in the media for decades. It was even on Germany's version of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, Aktenzeichen XY Ungelöst. Over 1,200 leads were generated over the years. Everyone had an answer for YOGTZE, but nobody could explain that clean car.
And that tension, the extreme violence versus the perfectly clean crime scene, is what made it endure.
For sure. Every new detective on the case was trying to find some clever explanation for the missing evidence, convinced those four men had to exist.
Which finally brings us to the present. 41 years later, in a surprise announcement, the Hogan Police and the Public Prosecutor's Office officially closed the case in April 2025. What was the final official truth behind the Autobahn riddle?
It was a massive revision, all based on modern forensic science. The new expert reports and a full, painstaking reevaluation of the evidence completely overturned the initial 1984 conclusion.
So the murder theory, the stage crash, him being run over, that was all wrong.
Completely wrong. The new analysis concluded that Stoll's severe injuries were not consistent with being run over by a separate car. Instead, they were found to be fully consistent with a single, severe, self-inflicted traffic accident.
A self-inflicted accident.
Specifically, his vehicle crashing into trees while he was unrestrained by a seatbelt.
That completely collapses the entire espionage and murder narrative. But how could the 1984 forensics have gotten the cause of injury so profoundly wrong?
Well, it really speaks to the limits of forensic analysis at the time. The 2025 reevaluation found that the complex physics of an unbelted person hitting the inside of a small car, combined with the momentum of crashing into a tree, it could account for everything. Skull fractures, the near amputation of the arm.
All the injuries they found external.
Exactly. That initial finding of pre-crash injuries was reevaluated and deemed highly doubtful once the crash dynamics were modeled.
And the missing evidence, lack of DNA, lack of fingerprints.
That evidence, which was the biggest contribution to the murder theory, now became the strongest confirmation of the new conclusion. Stoll was a murderer.
Which means his frantic drive, the collapse at the pub, refusing to see his parents, the crash itself, and even the nakedness.
Which was likely a consequence of his severe head trauma or a pre-crash psychotic action.
It can all be attributed to one terrifying reality.
Severe, untreated psychological disturbance. Investigators ultimately concluded that his final words, that dying declaration about four men, were the final delusion of a mind descending into a severe psychotic episode. The prosecutor's office confirmed it. No one was there.
And the man in the white coat.
They determined he was either a fleeting, disoriented motorist who just stopped to look and then left, or, more likely, a misinterpretation by the shocked witnesses in the immediate aftermath of a brutal crash.
So the ultimate fate of the YOGTZE code, the key that launched 40 years of investigation, I'm guessing that was equally disappointing for the conspiracy theorists.
It was officially dismissed. Authorities now conclude the note was irrelevant. It was likely just random